Hey everybody, this is Dave.
I'm Joel.
Hey Jags.
And welcome back to our third episode of Three in the Chamber. Originally we were going to talk about, field rules and unifying the rules of California, but with everything going on with SB 199, we thought we'd take a chance to address that. And in case you guys don't know what 199 will do to the sport of airsoft, essentially it is a bill that is in the California legislature now. It's scheduled to be read tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, so they schedule it, yeah.
Scheduled to be read tomorrow, and essentially what it's going to do is it's going to mandate that all airsoft guns in California will be brightly colored in orange, green, yellow, purple, whatever, or translucent materials, kind of like the guns that you see in some of our big box retailers. Okay, so and that goes for sale, transportation. I think possession is the only thing that's not included in that bill. But what that means to the rest of you out there outside of California is all the guns or a majority of our guns are shipped in through California, which makes that transportation and sale, even to your distributors, illegal. So it's important that everybody knows what's going on. So in regards to that, we are trying to work with the Airsoft Safety Foundation and see what we can do to prevent this bill from coming through.
We kind of need to have a united front when it comes to this.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you specifically what you think we should do about this one.
The one thing that I know about this from experience over the last few years has been that De Leon has been attempting to pass bill after bill after bill. It was, what, 798, and then it was 1315, and now here we are at 199. And it's essentially, it's the exact same thing that he's done 2 times before. And the reason that they were shut down before, what do you think? Why do you think they didn't pass before?
Well, we did have the ASF, and they did fight pretty hard with the lobbyists that are up there. And also, thankfully, Governor Brown happens to have kind of, and De Leon says this himself, a libertarian view of gun ownership and gun rights. So that's one thing that we do have in our corner. That's a good thing. But I think, too, one of the things that we need to concentrate on is why this bill came about. And basically, for those of you that are not in the know, a young man about 13 years of age was confronted by law enforcement officers, and there's varying stories of what happened after the officer stopped him, but he was carrying his airsoft gun in view of the public. He had it slung over his shoulder, and he had another one in his waistband. And it was a neighborhood that is known for a higher crime area. So I think one of the bigger steps that we can do to prevent something like this from happening in the future is to not do that. And parents, if you're watching this with your minor, I guess, airsoft player, don't let them out of the house without their gun being in a gun bag. That's the simplest way we can stop this.
The number one thing, because I've been telling people all week, people have been asking me, well, how do I prevent my kid from getting hurt? Parents and kids alike need to understand the concept of respect for law enforcement. When you are confronted by a police officer, that's not a time to argue. That's not a time to express your anger at other things that have nothing to do with the situation. The respect that you have for the officer is that you put your hands in the air. I mean, on the field, this is the universal sign for don't shoot me on the field. There's a reason we use this. It's because when you have your hands up in the air, everybody knows you're not going to make an attempt to hurt the person that's there in front of you. This is don't shoot me. And when you have your airsoft gun and you come across a police officer, that's exactly what we expect you to do. Have respect enough to lift your hands in the air.
And that's even if the gun's in a gun bag, because occasionally here in California, I think they have even stopped people carrying gun bags before. Going from A to B, it's happened. I've heard isolated reports of it, where somebody's carrying a gun bag inside or something. A police officer happens to be driving by, and let's be honest, out here in California, rifle bags are not, or actually, let me rephrase, here in San Jose, in the cities, in the Bay Area, it's not a common sight. We can agree on that.
Yeah.
So if you are stopped by a police officer, follow his instructions to the letter. If he says freeze, freeze. If he says put the bag on the ground, put the bag on the ground. Don't turn to see who's saying it or who's doing it. Just follow his instructions. Now, Jags, because you've been in the quiet chair over here. What is one of the things that you think? Well, I know it's your status quo. Well, what do you think we could do in order to prevent this from happening again, other than listening to police officers and not being irresponsible? There's a word I was looking for. Irresponsible with your gun and taking it outside.
Education.
Education.
Yeah.
Expound.
That's it. Pretty much it.
Education.
And Dave was a law enforcement officer. He was actually a military police officer for a while, long time. And then he went to go work with various different, and he's worked with like every department in the U.S. in this point. I mean, every department you could think of, you've had some kind of interaction with. And I know that you've mentioned a couple times there's a common thread, and that's they really don't have time for BS. They really don't.
It's only that. In a situation like this, it's a split-second decision. I mean, we're talking,
right.
You know how fast it is when somebody pops out of a bush when you're on the game field, and you're like, oh, and you swing to shoot, and sometimes friendly fire happens on the airsoft field.
A lot.
A lot. It happens with police officers, too. If somebody's got a gun and they just spin around and point at that, that's it.
Our criminal justice system is set up so that when there's an incident, when you're placed under arrest, the point of that is to allow you to have an opportunity to defend yourself at a later date. It's not, you're not defending yourself right then and there when you encounter a police officer. If, God forbid, you were ever arrested, I don't know if you kids realize this, that the cops are there to protect everybody, so including themselves.
Okay.
That's their goal.
So anyway, on that too, it is a really unfortunate event that this did happen. It's sad, and our heart does go out to the parents and family of this child, and also to the officer, excuse me, who has to deal with this for the rest of his life. So that being said, guys, be responsible with your airsoft guns. Do the right thing. Have them in a gun bag. Listen to the police if you're stopped. Play on sanctioned fields only. Only sanctioned fields. Alright, there are clubs that play in their backyard, I should say backyard, maybe on a private piece of land, but if it's not an established field, the police officers don't expect you to be out there, nor do people who are walking through the area. ARC is open to the public in a way because of the riverbed. We can't fence off and lock a riverbed. It doesn't happen.
But it is private property.
But it is private property. And Hollister Law Enforcement and San Benito County both know we're there, as do the Chamber of Commerce and the Better Business. Everybody knows we're there.
And they're happy to have us there.
Because we are starting to work with them. If you go out to a field that is, I don't know, just happens to be behind someone's house in a wooded area, and there are a few clubs that are doing this now, the police officers don't know you're there, nor do civilians that happen to wander through. All they're going to see is a bunch of people playing with guns. There are 4 or 5 now, I think.
Hard to say.
There are 4 or 5 fields here in the Bay Area alone, and I know that most of us have access to that in the major cities, one way or another. There's somebody that's within an hour and a half of you to play airsoft at. Please do that moving forward. Now, that being said, should this bill pass, and I don't think it will, ARC will still continue to run games, and I believe the other major fields are not planning on shutting down either. Will we play with orange guns? Yeah. Will we like it as much as playing with the replica? Maybe
I don't
not,
see a problem with that. I'm just going to make myself something pink.
Yeah. No.
That's my thing. I'm like, okay, great. I always get to make, I get that one I always wanted, I get to make it pink.
So the cool thing is there are fields, and a lot of the shift out here on the West Coast is to play in more CQB style environments, either buildings or shanty towns or water tank fields or barrels or fuel depots or whatever we want to call them for the purpose of the game. And honestly, your gun color doesn't matter that much. So I will probably say, that's the almost done buzzer, guys. I will say that most likely the other fields will run. I will say for a fact that ARC will continue to be here for you guys so that you have a safe place to play, a fun place to play, and we'll find a way to design the game so that they're entertaining all the way across the board.
Right.
All right. So, anything else to add last minutes?
No.
I don't think that's it. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and that's about it.
All right, guys. So we will see you next 2 weeks, I think. We'll have another
2
one.
weeks, yeah.
And that one was where we will discuss the unification of field rules under California, which actually might play into this for safety across the board. So till then, guys, stay safe, stay smart, and we'll see you out on the field.